Good morning. Welcome to December. The last month on the calendar is typically one of the busiest months of the year. I hope you're ready for the holidays ahead. You know, looking back, 2019 has been a very challenging year for Dickinson County Healthcare System in Iron Mountain. During the year, it was on the verge of bankruptcy and being acquired by a larger healthcare organization. Where do they stand today? We'll talk about that this morning, and it starts right now.
From TV6, this is The Ryan Report. Here's your host, Don Ryan.
Well, Dickinson County Healthcare System has weathered the storms of 2019, but still has challenges ahead. And they've hired a new president and CEO to lead that effort. Chuck Nelson has taken on that assignment, and he is with us today to talk about the future for Dickinson County Healthcare. Chuck, welcome to The Ryan Report.
Thank you.
Nice to have you
Glad
with
to be
us.
here.
You know, first of all, let's get to know you a little bit. I was looking at your resume. I see you went to both Central and Michigan Tech.
Yes, I did.
And it looked like you were interested in the end in getting an engineering degree.
Yes, I did. So I began grew up in Southeast Michigan. I had an opportunity to go to Michigan Tech in engineering and pursued an undergraduate degree in engineering and business, and then was recruited by GM to go work in the auto industry, and my first assignment was in Flint, Michigan. I then we had various assignments with them in Pontiac, and then ultimately in the tech center in Warren, Michigan. But we always wanted to live in the UP, having had a taste of the UP and my undergraduate studies here. So I had a chance in 1998 to transition from the auto industry into healthcare. And so I began that tenure as an intern in healthcare in 1998, and have never looked back since. It's been a wonderful career.
And so you've not only transitioned from the auto industry to healthcare, you transitioned from the very southern part of the state to the northernmost parts as well.
Absolutely.
What was it mainly the idea of moving back here that was the appealing thing to you?
I think that was a driver, as well as I think that just what we've grown to appreciate about the UP, the lifestyle, the way you can communicate and have the relationship with your neighbors and your friends in a way that you can't in a large and big city. Raise your kids in a school district where you know the teachers and you know the residents as you do. So we always had an idea that when our oldest son began school, we'd like to be in the UP and have him grow up and experience the UP the way that my wife did. She's originally from Laurium, so that's the trailing spouse is always the issue in these kind of moves. So she was very receptive to the idea of us moving and raising our family in the UP, and we've enjoyed every minute of it. So
we're not going to go over your whole resume, but I know you did spend some time as the Chief Regional Officer for Aspirus in the Western UP, responsibility there for a number of hospitals and clinics.
Yes, so I originally began as a CEO of an independent hospital. It was at the time Cuban Memorial Medical Center in Laurium, Michigan. And then in 2008, we affiliated with Aspirus, and we grew that system. We called it a system within a system, 4 hospitals in the western end of the UP and 15 clinics at the time, and really grew to understand the challenges that exist in the rural communities in bringing healthcare and services to those populations as best we can.
As I'm sure you know, in the world of sports, you know, we have comeback of the year. Players can earn that award sometimes, or teams. It kind of looks like maybe Dickinson County Healthcare is on track to maybe qualify for that award, but after the year they had, but I'm sure there are still challenges ahead, right?
There's no question about it. I think universally across the nation, I think there are many healthcare organizations face challenges of the degree and the magnitude that Dickinson faced at one point in time. May be in question, but the reality is the industry is under extreme pressure in any major facet of the services that are provided. Dickinson in particular had a remarkable turnaround, as you alluded to, over the course of a year. I think the financial performance is much better than it was, and the future is much brighter. And I think I look forward to bringing services and new experiences, especially when it comes to the patient experience and the community relations, raising it to the next level, bringing those around in ways that probably haven't been there in a while.
I'm sure some people are asking, knowing the recent history, why would you take on this assignment?
I think I've grown to appreciate the challenges that healthcare brings with it. It's the most dynamic business I've ever been involved in. And certainly the challenges that go along with it are no short of substantial. But the reality is we have an opportunity to bring that organization to a level that I think can be a signature service provider for the area, for the region, an employer of choice for people seeking employment within that healthcare industry. And to me, it's a challenge. It's not, I don't run from it, I'm running to it. And not only because I think there are opportunities for success, the community deserves it.
You have a diverse background. You had a number of responsibilities at General Motors and now in the healthcare industry. Do you have a management style or an approach that seems to work best for you?
I think I would describe it as participatory. I think when we talk about the voice of the customer and the voice of the employee, a healthcare facility is only brick and mortar, right? The building itself, what resides within it, the people that provide the services, the men and women that come in every day to do what they do. That's the special element to healthcare that I think is most exciting for me to be a part of. So building the leadership team, building the physicians and the medical staff, aligning with the community needs and adjusting the organization to meet those needs, that's all exciting to me. And I think at the end of the day, it's not about what I bring to the table, it's what I can do for the team and bringing us all together in a unified conversation about what healthcare will look like in Dickinson County, not only a year from now, but 10 years from now, adjusting and modulating to the needs of the community as they arise. So for me, it's a constant conversation with those stakeholders that we bring service to, not only the people that work within the facilities, but also the external community constituents.
We'll talk more about what specifically has to be done in just a couple of minutes. Back with more on today's show after we take this 2-minute break. Our guest this morning is Chuck Nelson. Chuck is recently taken over as the new CEO at Dickinson County Healthcare System. You know, I'd like to say, is it fair to say that a healthcare system is a really complex operation with a lot more moving parts than people may not even realize?
Oh, I think that's certainly true. There are a lot of moving parts. I think we had a study done at one point where I think there was a configuration of 40 different ways we get paid or compensated for the care that we provide to our patients and our community. And second to that is the regulatory requirement we deal with, and that's second only to the nuclear industry. So the complexity associated with delivering care today is probably as dynamic as it's ever been.
And the thing is, I would think, and maybe this is where Dickinson got into some problems, you can't just do one or two things well, you have to do it all well, don't you?
You have to do it all well. And I think anymore people associate their healthcare experience with the latest experience they had at a restaurant or a hotel, because most people don't interact with the healthcare system until they really need it. And so what they associate the experience with is that latest service-related industry that they participated in. So our requirements are continually increasing over time. We want to provide not only the greatest and highest quality of care, but also the environment in which people are comfortable, they're safe, they feel good about coming into the environment. The food and the service associated with their stay, if they're in a hospital setting, has to be as good as it possibly can be. And we're meeting expectations today that people didn't think about 30 years ago.
So you're fairly new on the job. You started end of October, very end of October.
Right.
Have you been doing an assessment, and what have you discovered as you've looked around?
Yeah, I think you know, anytime you enter the organization, the first 90 days are very important to really understand the lay of the land and kind of the history, but also we're spending an inordinate amount of time communicating about where we go forward, not necessarily what happened in the past. And so this is all about planning the next phase of our strategic priorities and imperatives for the next 1 to 3 to 5 years. Any more in healthcare, I think when you go beyond 3 to 5 years, you're probably into territory that we don't quite understand what exactly will happen.
Right.
The changing with technology, with with AI and machine learning and all those different elements that come along with it. But in the near future, it's really understanding what are we going to do in the next 12 to 18 months to really secure the future of the organization.
I know you have put out a plan called Focus Forward, or Forward Focus Forward.
Focus Forward.
And quality is at the top of the list. Talk about that.
Absolutely. I think quality is, and the good news is, despite all the challenges the organization's faced over the last couple of years, the men and women that come in and do what they do, the physicians, the medical staff, the support staff, anyone involved in the care process has not taken their eye off the ball. And most recently, Dickinson achieved an A rating by Leapfrog, which is 28 metrics in quality and safety that are assessed on the organization, and to receive a rating like that with the challenges the organization had is very significant. So quality is very important. It always has been to this organization. So the good news is we start with that platform and build off of the experience and the services that we can improve upon.
And you say every patient will receive 5-star treatment.
Yes, absolutely. And I think what I described earlier about the experience that people have when they come into the facility, anymore it's about not only the quality of care and the points at which the patient is engaged with a provider and somebody providing care to them. It's also about all the administrative functions that go along with it, how you interact with the financial services, how you interact as you leave the facility, how your post-acute care might be positioned with home health and so on. So it's not just about one point of care, it's about the continuum across the spectrum.
I know one of your points too is to calibrate the staff, services, and facilities to meet the healthcare needs of the community. Isn't it also true that hospitals in rural areas can't be everything to everybody? You can do some things, but you can't do everything.
Absolutely true, and I think you have to set the strategic direction upon those things that you can do really well, and then find partners and alliances beyond that point that you can work with to provide the patient with the next level of care when they need it. Patient choice is always paramount in that conversation. So what we decide to do in our local communities, we have to do very, very well, and that's why the quality standard has to be very high. And you deploy all your resources and your efforts and your conscience about what you're going to do in those facilities. And the reality is we're not going to be doing open heart surgery in Dickinson, and probably brain surgery. It's just that's unrealistic and not even in the cards. But what we are going to do, and many of those services are provided today, would do very, very well. But there are only so many resources that can go around. The talent that is available out in the industry wide, the shortage of physicians and providers and surgeons across the industry is in dire straits these days. There's not enough physicians to go around. So we really have to find ways to deliver care in a unique way. And the reality is, if care is provided in the community and the residents of that community will utilize those services, then we're all about providing them. But if we don't have enough population, there's not enough resources from the talent, from the provider perspective, we really need to think twice about whether or not we're going to continue that service.
Okay. I'll have some more questions for you in just a couple of minutes. Back with more on today's show after we take one more break. Once again, our guest this morning is Chuck Nelson, the new CEO at Dickinson County Healthcare System. Let's talk about, during the past year, there was a couple of possibilities of Dickinson merging with other organizations. What does the future hold in that regard? Does Dickinson want to remain independent? Where do you think it has to go?
I think the challenge for rural health these days is how do you provide everything you can with the scarcity of resources that exist. Healthcare today is in a declining reimbursement environment, so what we do today, we're going to have less dollars in the future to provide that equivalent care, or even in some cases increased levels of care. So it's really important to understand how we best do that. So I'm a very strong advocate of partnership as in alliances. Because as we stated earlier, not everybody can be everything to everybody all the time. And there are some organizations that have reached out to Dickinson. We've had some recent conversations about how we work together to provide better care and service. The number one priority in this conversation is what's the best thing for Dickinson County Healthcare System. not anyone else in this conversation at this point. So how best do we align ourselves? And so the question is it in the future? I think some level of conversation regarding partnerships and alliances will occur and need to occur, I think, to be able to sustain the level of advancement of care in any given community around this country, especially in rural.
One of the things that's going on now in Lansing is a budget debate which has affected rural hospitals and certainly in the UP. Does that affect Dickinson Hospital?
Yes, it does. I think it was disappointing that the budget, the uplift on the rural health access pool, especially with OB, when 70-some% of the babies delivered in the state of Michigan are Medicaid, through the Medicaid system. I think there were resources and additional funding that were being provided to rural communities to help assist with funding those operations, and to have those locked up in the process in Lansing is disappointing. I think we're near between $750,000 and $1 million impact probably to Dickinson in terms of having those dollars tied up and not deployed out to the community. So we hope and we're optimistic that those dollars will be freed up at some point, but it's essential that the state help us to continue to deliver care in these communities like we have. Our expenses haven't decreased as a result of that process being frozen up. So we'll continue to provide the services, we'll continue to do all the things that we do, but we need those additional dollars to come in and fund the operation.
And the numbers may be different, but this certainly affects probably every
healthcare
UP hospital.
Absolutely, every healthcare facility in the UP is affected by these cuts and this holdup right now. So we're optimistic that something will happen, but we're encouraging our legislators and everyone involved in the process to continue to press forward.
I know you're presently trying to get a $24 million loan from the federal government. Is that essential for the future?
I think the way in which we go about getting access to funding is essential for our future. I think anytime you have the level of technology that exists in a healthcare facility, you need to refresh those pieces of equipment over time. You need to advance not only the personal contact, but also the technological element. So it is essential that we receive capital to continue to fund the technology and the resources within the healthcare community and the environment that we work in. And so we'll press forward. We're working with the USDA today, and it's taking a little bit longer than I think all of us anticipated, but nevertheless, I think we have to keep our eye on our priorities as we move forward, and technology replacement enhancement is certainly one of those.
And even if the loan doesn't come through, the fact that you're on more solid financial footing now could make those funds available from other sources, right?
Absolutely. I think any time that we can strengthen the overall viability of the organization betters our picture for the future, not only in the access to capital, but also the attraction of resources, which come in the provider element as well. So anytime, what's happened over the last couple of years has been a remarkable turnaround, as we alluded to, and I think that spells good news for the future in many different aspects.
And we have less than 30 seconds left, so I'll just say it. The important thing is for people to use it or lose it, right? It's important that they go to their local hospital.
Absolutely.
When those services are available.
Absolutely. I think the only way that we sustain an operation is having people come to our facilities for services and care, and so I encourage everybody to experience your local health care. It's probably better, if they haven't been on there in a while, it's better than they probably remember it as. And we'll continue to keep that commitment and promise to make it as good as we possibly can.
Thanks for coming in this morning, and good luck in the future.
Thank you.
You have to make way for the Today Show, which is just around the corner. Keep UpperMichiganSource.com in mind for the latest news anytime, and for a rebroadcast of today's and past episodes of this show. Thanks to Chuck Nelson for providing an update today on Dickinson County Healthcare System. And thank you for joining us. Hope you'll be here again next Sunday morning.